So this is being recorded Sunday morning, and it's my post-fight reaction to Deontay Wilder, Bermane, Stiverne. And as those who have seen the fight will know, it's going to be one of those where my post-fight reaction is actually substantially longer than the actual fight in the ring, because Deontay Wilder stopped Bermane Stiverne inside the very first round. You know, complete contrast to what happened in the first fight, where Bermane Stiverne was the first guy to go 12 rounds with Deontay Wilder. Well, here Deontay came out with bad intentions, looked like he was going for the knockout for round one, and when he got Stiverne hurt, he did not let him off. You know, Deontay scored 3 knockdowns, the final one ending in the referee calling the fight off. In terms of the action that took place in the ring, first minute, Deontay completely measured, stands there, dictates the reins, establishes the jab. Really, that jab, I know we're only talking about a minute of action, but I didn't really see anything from Bermane Stiverne, because he was more concerned about staying outside of the range of that jab and not getting caught with it. Deontay looked fast with that jab. He looked like he was throwing it hard, fast. It looked like it had some real snap behind it. After the first minute or so, Deontay started to look to use his power punches. His accuracy is to be commended. He threw a jab and then he threw a right cross. The classic Deontay Wilder straight 1-2. Bermane Stiverne at the time, high guard, was looking to, be defensive. Deontay spears that right hand cross straight through the middle of Stiverne's guard, lands it on the point of the chin. Stiverne goes straight down backwards. To be fair, Stiverne showed he retained some of his punch resistance by actually getting up from that blow. He wasn't knocked unconscious from it, as a lot of men would have been. But he got back up, and it's questionable whether he ever actually recovered. Wilder charges in, and Wilder is throwing huge left-right hooks, almost kind of slappy punches. The arms were quite straight as he was throwing them, but he throws, I think it's a big right hook, catches Stiverne on the guard. I don't actually think the punch lands, but the force of the blow with Stiverne on unsteady legs actually knocks Stiverne right off his feet. Stiverne gets up a second time, and this time you can see Deontay Wilder really wants to go for the finish. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say he sprints across the ring, and to be honest, I don't know whether he was playing. He was doing you've got head movement and then you've got ridiculous head movement. Deontay Wilder was kind of standing there with his hands down, running at Stiverne, going like this, with that kind of head movement, and just takes Stiverne out with a combination of 3 or 4 punches. He lands a hook, then a right hand through the middle. The ref has to jump in. It looked relatively unpleasant for a second or two. It looked like Stiverne was hurt and Deontay Wilder was looking to continue punching, and the referee was wrestling with Deontay Wilder to restrain him. Wilder was very, very, very pumped up. But having watched the slow-mo back, I don't actually think anything of note lands from Wilder after the referee steps in, which is very, very good, thankfully. So the fight ends in the first round. Bermane Stiverne, you wonder if that is the end for him. At the age of 39 years old, having been inactive for so long, it's going to be very, very hard for him to come back, and fight on after the nature of that loss. Even if you were a promoter with a prospect looking to put your prospect in with Stiverne, you'd have to question whether it's going to build your prospect by doing that, because realistically, Wilder's just smashed this guy out of the park in 1 minute. So unless you're, in 1 round. So unless your prospect's able to do that, that prospect's going to be compared negatively to Deontay Wilder's performance against Bermane Stiverne. And I don't want to criticise Stiverne, because he took some punches in there that would have knocked out any and all heavyweights, I presume. But I have to say I was very disappointed with the physical condition of him in the lead up to this fight. Very, very disappointing. Now, this wasn't a fight that went 10 rounds. This wasn't a fight where both guys had to go into the trenches and use their stamina reserves. So I'm not saying that the physical condition is why Stiverne lost this fight. But he turned up on what was his big chance, probably his last chance. He turned up in I think the worst shape I've ever seen him. And this is why I was so strong in my prediction video that I thought the age was against him. I thought the inactivity was against him. I thought the weight was against him. And I thought the beating that he took at the hands of Wilder last time out would have you know, shortened his career. And I think the shape he turned in, he looked slow, he looked sluggish, he looked tentative, he looked very, very heavy in there, very heavy and ponderous and plodding. And he made Wilder look even faster, even more athletic, even more explosive, yeah, even bigger, even stronger. So Stiverne will be disappointed. You know, it's going to be hard for him to come back for that, but we shall see. This is heavyweight boxing. It's a sport where one punch can change everything. A lot of people were talking in this fight about Deontay Wilder coming in so light. I believe he was 15 stone 12 or something, Eddie Hearn said. Eddie Hearn actually made reference to this in his interview at the Monaco Bill last night. He said, I texted Anthony Joshua and told Anthony Joshua that Deontay Wilder came into this fight at 15 stone 12. And apparently, according to Eddie Hearn, Joshua replied back saying something like, I will eat him. You know, clearly the suggestion from Hearn and Joshua is that 15 stone 12 is simply too light to be one of the dominant heavyweights in this day and age. And a massive guy like Anthony Joshua, who's just weighed in at a career heaviest of 18 stone 2, is simply going to be too big for a guy like Deontay Wilder with his more slender physique. Let me say, I completely disagree with that analysis from Hearn and Joshua, and I think that could be a costly error should they get in the ring with Deontay Wilder, and should Joshua's weight continue to go up and up and up. Yeah, I've been watching back old tapes of Joshua. I got to say, I actually think he looked better earlier on in his career than he's done against Carlos Takam. I think he's got to the point now where he's put on so much weight, so much artificial muscle, you know, so much muscle forged by lifting heavy metal in the gym. You know, I think he's looking less explosive than he did when he was coming up. I think he looks slow. I think he's slower. Sorry, not slow, slower. I think he's very conscious that he's got a propensity to gas out, and as such, he's not fully committing to punches like he used to. I think he's fighting at a slower pace. I think his movement is less. I really see Joshua being negatively affected potentially by the increase in weight. Now, Deontay Wilder, I agree 15 stone 12 is light for a heavyweight champion in a day and age where we've got Fury, Joshua, Parker, Klitschko, etc. I agree it's light. But we look at Deontay Wilder, how light on his feet is he? How quick is he? How quick is that jab? How explosive is he? Look, Wilder's clearly one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division, potentially the very, very biggest puncher in the heavyweight division. He's potentially the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division despite 15 stone 12. You know, he doesn't need to be 30, 40 pounds higher. I mean, how much is Joshua? Joshua's, let me put this in American money in case I've got US people tuning in. Joshua's 32 pounds heavier than Wilder. You know, I'm not seeing Joshua's power increasing as he's put on weight. You know, I'm not seeing Wilder's power being negatively affected by being 15 stone 12. You know, Wilder looked just as deadly as ever. And I think power, you know, people need to acknowledge that power isn't just about weight. You know, a 200-pound man who can hit fast and accurately and quick is going to hit far harder than a 300-pound man who punches as slow as a snail. You know, you've got to have some speed and snap and explosiveness there to generate the power, obviously combined with the size. But when you get to these guys, you know, Deontay Wilder's 220 pounds, they're all going to hit very, very hard. And trust me when I say this, Deontay Wilder's got the power to take any heavyweight out. You know, as does Anthony Joshua, by the way. But will Joshua's increase in weight, will Joshua's potential decrease in speed and explosiveness, could that mean he's less likely to land the punches he needs to land to get the guy out? I think that's an open question. You know, Wilder was very, very aggressive in calling out Anthony Joshua in the post-fight interview he did in the ring. You know, he made it clear that he wants Anthony Joshua and that he's confident of winning the fight. He's got some sort of rhyme that he's working with, saying like, you think you're the best, are you ready for the test? And he was saying that 2 or 3 times, which was quite funny. You know, last night we didn't really see enough from Deontay Wilder to he took the guy out in devastating fashion. It's hard to say he's improved. It's hard to say he's getting better. We kind of know that Deontay Wilder's very, very good, and last night showed that he's got his well-being intact, and showed that he's very, very much still deserving of a position at the very top of the sport. I do think I give Wilder a lot of advantages in that Joshua fight. A lot of them relating to things such as speed. I think Wilder's jab has become a real weapon and one that he's happy to commit to. And I do think Wilder has improved a lot since the first Bermane Stiverne fight in terms of using his jab and in terms of using the ring and moving, etc. Sometimes with Wilder, and I'm afraid this is just the nature of Deontay Wilder, we've seen this for so long now, his interest in finishing a fight means that he negates fundamentals. And you look at that third knockdown of Bermane Stiverne when he sprints in with his hands down by his waist, literally playing with his head movement, throwing ridiculous shapes in the ring. And you just wonder, if he fights an elite fighter, and being frank, Wilder is yet to fight an elite fighter. If he fights an elite fighter, would he be a counterpuncher's dream? Now, he only does that after he's got opponents hurt. And clearly, it's very, very hard to keep your senses about you when you're hurt by Deontay Wilder, because he's a very, very big puncher. But my point is, he takes a lot of risks. He takes a hell of a lot of risks. We didn't see him tested defensively in this fight because Stiverne offered nothing in the way of offense. But in recent fights, we still see him going back in straight lines. We still see him with his hands down by his waist. We still see him, not using a basic guard, etc. when he's going back. There's a lot of risks there, and you just wonder. He's got away with it fighting the top 10 level. When he steps up to fight the elite, the top 3, the top 4, will the risks he take be to his detriment? A guy like Joshua, for me, he's a bit more of a fundamentals first fighter. Joshua's got his own weaknesses, do not get me wrong, but he's a bit more of a fundamentals first fighter. However, whilst Joshua, of course, has advantages over Wilder, I also think Wilder has advantages over AJ. I do believe that Wilder is a bigger puncher than Joshua, although I don't actually view that as wholly relevant, because I think they're both far big enough punchers to take the other one out. So I think who's the bigger puncher won't really determine the way the fight goes. I think if Joshua was able to land on Wilder's chin, I think if Wilder's able to land on Joshua's chin, it's probably all zero. So I don't think Wilder being the bigger puncher is necessarily the defining factor here. But I think Wilder probably is the bigger puncher. I think Wilder's the better mover. I actually think Wilder may have the better jab, which I know is very controversial and will probably get me quite a bit of stick here. But there you go. I believe Wilder's the higher stamina fighter. I believe Wilder can fight aggressively for 12 rounds. And I believe Wilder can still keep his power late on in a fight. I believe that Wilder can be every bit of devastating in rounds 9, 10 and 11. Now Joshua can as well. He took out Klitschko late, he took out Takam late, albeit in controversial circumstances. My concern is that Joshua has flat spots in fights. Either because he punches himself out because he's so heavy, or because he has flat spots in fights because he punches himself out, or just because he takes a few rounds easy and just fights behind a jab because he can see a fight's going late and he doesn't want to expend his energy. And I just wonder, the way Deontay Wilder puts the pedal to the metal and really, really, really goes for it in the ring, you just wonder if Joshua wouldn't be able to have those breaks in a fight like he's had elsewhere. And let me tell you, if Joshua got into a position like he was in against Dillian Whyte or against Klitschko when he was hurt and gassed, there's no way Deontay Wilder would be letting him off the hook. Deontay Wilder goes for the finish in the most brutal and definite way possible. So, it's a fascinating fight. It really is a fascinating fight. I did a video last week where I talked about Joshua versus Wilder versus Parker. I said I made Joshua a favourite over Wilder. I think Joshua probably still is a favourite over Wilder. but I think it's close. I think it's increasingly close, and I really think we can call this something resembling a 50-50 fight. You know, Joshua's got his super fans, Wilder's got his super fans, but the attractive thing about this fight is they're both unbeaten, they're both tremendous knockout artists, but they're both, I don't want to say they're flawed, because their flaws haven't necessarily been exposed in the ring, but they've both got weaknesses to their game that you suspect could be drawn out by a really, really elite fighter. It's a mouth-watering clash. You know, I know Dominic Breazeale beat Eric Molina on the undercard of Wilder Stiverne, and you kind of wonder where, you know, there's some debate now as to whether that's a final eliminator or an eliminator. You know, I don't know. But you know, Breazeale versus Wilder. I mean, Wilder, I know Breazeale's big, he's tough, he's strong, but Wilder's a different gravy. You know, he's a different class to Dominic Breazeale. You kind of want to see Wilder in the bigger fights now. He's had a long enough career. Was it 39 fights? And he's yet to fight someone who's like a top 5 heavyweight, if you like. Whether it's a Parker, a Povetkin, a Joshua, a Fury, you know, one of those sort of guys. It's going to be mouthwatering. Wilder, he's a great character outside the ring. He's a great talker. He's probably the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division. He's exciting to watch. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes next. Yeah, the Bermane Stiverne fight tonight showed that nobody's really benefiting from seeing Wilder fight that type of opponent anymore. Dominic Breazeale offers different challenges to Bermane Stiverne, but fundamentally, neither of them are in Wilder's class as far as I'm concerned. Let me know your thoughts, guys. What's your thoughts on this matchup? Give me your take on the Anthony Joshua fight. Has your take on that fight changed after watching the fight last night? Were you impressed with Deontay Wilder? Were you disappointed with Stiverne? Leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, as always, please take the time to hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe if you haven't done so before. And I appreciate you all tuning in and choosing to spend your time watching my channel. Thanks very much.